Adventures with Fibro here. Welcome back to my channel. I've had a lot of new subscribers recently. Thank you for subscribing. If you don't know, my name is Dina. I'm a 40-year-old living downtown Toronto with my beautiful cat Chloe, and I have fibromyalgia and PTSD, which is a fun time. Right now we're talking about my recent trip to Peru. We actually did this trip as a 40th birthday present. So we've talked already about our time in Lima, we've talked about Huacachina and Paracas, we've talked a little bit about Cusco, and now we're gonna talk about the Inca Trail. I'm not gonna be able to stop smiling throughout this entire video. The whole reason we went to Peru in the first place was to hike the Inca Trail. You generally will do a 4-day, 3-night hike. That's kind of the traditional Inca Trail. If you want to do the whole thing, you can do a shorter version to get to Machu Picchu, but most people will usually do the 4 days, 3 nights. There are other excursions you can take to get to Machu Picchu as well. You can also access Machu Picchu without hiking anything at all, though you will be on your feet a lot as you explore Machu Picchu, but we can talk about that when we get to that part. We decided to hike with a company called Catchy Life. I'll put their website here. We really appreciated and enjoyed all of our interactions with Catchy Life. They were really on top of things. You could rent a bunch of things from them. Because my luggage was stolen in Lima, I ended up having to rent a sleeping pad, a sleeping bag, and I was going to end up renting poles, but then one of our group didn't end up doing the hike, so I just used hers instead, which was nice for me, sucky for her. When you do excursions like this, you hike with porters. I've done a lot of through hikes before, but I've always had to carry my own gear, everything from food to tent, etc. It was really nice to have porters along that could carry most of the stuff for you. Basically, all you're carrying is a light day pack with some layers, sunscreen, lip balm, and all of your water, snacks, stuff like that. Just anything that you would need on a normal day hike. When you get to camp, food is prepared for you, which is incredible. And they do cater to different dietary restrictions. I'm gluten-free and a vegetarian, and they fed me beautifully. It was incredible. It was some of the best food we had actually the whole time we were in Peru. It was amazing. So you end up hiring either a half porter or a full porter that basically tells you how much weight you're allowed to put into your duffel bag that they will be carrying for you. And yeah, like I say, we really appreciated Catchy Life. They use some female porters, and they also make sure that everyone that they hire is from the local area. I did see a couple of guides while we were going who were British or Australian, and I was like, that feels weird. I appreciated that our guide and all of our porters were locals. It really does, help the economy and help them out, and it's really important for them and for their way of life. So I highly recommend Catchy Life. We had a phenomenal time with them, and they also guarantee you small groups, which I really appreciated too. I saw a couple of groups that had groups of like 20 people, and I really appreciated that there's supposed to be 6 of us in our group. There ended up only being 5 of us, and it was really quite a special time. The night before we left, the owner of Catchy Life, David, he and our guide, Mauro, you'll hear a ton about him, actually came and met us at our hotel in the lobby. And if you didn't watch the previous Cusco video, we stayed at the Niños Hotel, which is right near Old Cusco, right in Old Cusco, and just 10 out of 10 recommend. Gorgeous hotel, wonderful. They brought us the duffel bags that we got to then, put all of our stuff into, and told us a little bit about the trail and what we should expect while we're hiking, and give us some tips and tricks, etc. It was at that time that Shannon let David know that she wouldn't be going on the hike because she was very sick. I was also very sick. I had a chest cold, and I was really anxious and nervous about how this was gonna go. But this had been my dream for 20 years. The whole reason we were down there on this trip was because I dreamt of hiking the Inca Trail. So this was all on me. So I had to go, and I wasn't going to not go, but yeah, I want to go back and do it again. It was incredible. Anyways, so he actually came up with a plan for Shannon, and the next day when they came to pick us up at the hotel very early to head to the start of the trail, David actually sat down with Shannon and they made up a plan. He planned a trip through Catchy Life for her to explore the Sacred Valley, which was very cool. I'm jealous I didn't get to do that, honestly. I need to go back and do it with them as well. And then he actually, a day or two later, personally drove her halfway to Aguascalientes, which is the city at the bottom of Machu Picchu, and then set her up with a hotel and a train ticket to get to Aguascalientes the next night. So he really takes a hands-on approach and really makes sure that we have the best experience possible. So again, like I say, I can't recommend Catchy Life enough. They're incredible and really in the know with everything that's going on. So on August 10th, we started our hike. I felt like garbage. If you watched the previous video, you'll know that I ended up getting a chest cold, and the altitude had been really affecting me while we were in Cusco. Cusco is about approximately 12,000 feet above sea level. So it's a very high city. And I wasn't feeling the best. We stopped at a place to get breakfast, and we walked into the place, and the gentleman who was serving us actually looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, this is not great." This was one of our last places to pick up any like toiletries or anything like that we might need. We picked up a few things and then headed on our way. We had our porters in our van with us as well, and it was cool kind of getting to see all of them. You don't hike with your porters kind of run off ahead of you to set everything up. So halfway along the trail each day, they would set up at a certain location that they had spoken with Mauro, our guide, beforehand, and that's where we would have lunch, and then they would go on, pack everything up, and then they would pass us on the trail to go and set up camp. So every time, like I say, every time we arrived at camp, our tents would be set up, or if you rented a sleeping pad with them, they would be blown up and set up for you, and the food would be all ready. So you just have to show up, and you could go right into your tent and lay down, which I did every single day. We started the trail at kilometer 82. This is where everyone starts the trail if you're doing the 4-day, 3-night trek. Kilometer 82 is called that because it's kilometer 82 of the train line that actually takes you to Aguascalientes. So it's just everyone calls it kilometer 82. They've actually set up a very cute little museum that you go through very quickly that shows you a bunch of things, and some pottery and things like that have been found along the trail. You cross a river and you are on the trail. I was not okay. My fibromyalgia was working against me the entire day. So when you start the Inca Trail on day 1, you're actually just under 9,000 feet, and you only go up to about 9,600 feet by the end of it. You don't actually do that much incline, but that's the height of a lot of the mountains in like the Canadian Rockies. Like 9,000 feet is still quite high. You're still on like the top of a mountain to be hiking through here. So it's no easy feat, but this is considered the easiest day on the trail. For me, it was the hardest, but I'll get into that in a bit. You start off hiking alongside the Urubamba River, and eventually you end up going through a small community called Misque. Now, I might be pronouncing all of these things wrong. I'm gonna try my best. In the background behind you, you have the iconic Mount Veronica, which has a glacier called Veronica on it as well, which is very important to the Incan people. And it has to do with their spirituality, etc. And it's very important. And throughout our hike, anytime we saw Mount Veronica and the glacier, you could actually hear our Incan porters and guides saying prayers in Quechua, the language of the Incan people, to the mountain. It was quite a unique experience, actually. After you go through Misque, you keep heading up. I mean, we're going through the Andes. There is really no flat. And you end up overlooking these incredible ruins called Lac Tapada. Lac Tapada was discovered in 1911 by Hiram Bingham, who is also the explorer who discovered Machu Picchu in the first place. And it is known as the Upper City. It is believed that it was used as kind of a agricultural resource for Machu Picchu. So they would keep a lot of grains and rice and corn there, and they would use it kind of as a place of rest as people were doing the pilgrimage to Machu Picchu. This whole Incan Trail was actually known as a pilgrimage to go to Machu Picchu, and it's the only way doing this trek that you actually get to go through the Sun Gate, which on the solstice I believe it's the fourth day of the solstice. The sun actually goes through and it lands on the sun temple in Machu Picchu. It is crazy the way that the Incan people like lined up their cities, and I can't even get into it. There's a lot of astrology involved and I don't understand it at all, but it is fascinating. I'm reading up a lot about it now because I'm even more fascinated with the culture and the history now than I was before I went, and it is fascinating. Anyways, I digress. After about 6 to 8 hours, 8 if you're me and slow, of hiking, you end up in Huaylabamba, which is one of the last communities where you can buy things, food, etc. Along the journey. It is where we end up having dinner and where we spend the night. It is also where I had a panic attack. As I was saying, the very first day is supposed to be the easiest day, but because of this chest cold, I just couldn't breathe. I had trained at an altitude gym, and I talk a little bit about that earlier in my Cusco video. I had trained at an altitude gym. I was prepared for the altitude, but what I hadn't been prepared for was taking so much downtime, so much rest time, so my body wasn't working well. My quads would not engage, and every single step felt like, it was torture. That first day was so brutal for me, and I ended up in my head in such an incredible way. And I was talking myself down and I felt bad. There were my friend Patricia and my friend Michelle were with me, and they're both phenomenal, fast hikers, really strong and agile, and just they're able to just shoot ahead. Now, I've done hikes with them before. I've done through hikes with them before. And they know that I'm slower and they're okay with that. That's fine. Then we had these other two people, Brad and Shannon, different Shannon from our group. Shannon from our group stayed behind. A married couple from Seattle, and they were absolutely phenomenal people, and we immediately got along. But I felt bad. I felt guilty, and because I was so slow, and I was kind of holding them back and making them wait, and making Mauro, our guide, wait, and they were doing nothing to make me feel guilty. None of them. But I felt guilty, and that's on me. And I knew I had to get my head on straight, but I also didn't think I could finish. And so I allowed myself to talk myself into quitting. And we got to camp, and through tears, I told Mauro that I had chest pain, which I did. It happens to me when I get super anxious, but I never know exactly what it is, and half the time I end up in the ER. I ended up with incredible chest pain. I was having a hard time breathing. I was panicking, I was sobbing, and I just told him, you need to let me off the trail. And he looked me in the eyes and he said, "We will talk after you calm down." And I went to my tent and I got my head on straight. If not now, when? When am I ever gonna go back to Peru and do the Inca Trail? Now I know that I want to, but at the time, that it's not really a big option. It costs a lot of money, etc., etc. And I got my head on straight. There's a famous quote by Edmund Hillary, who was the very first person, along with his Sherpa, Tenzing Norgay, that they were the first two people to successfully climb Mount Everest, and come back safely. And his famous quote is, "It's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves." And that has never rung more true for me than it did on the Inca Trail, because I had to overcome my crippling disbelief in myself in order to then complete the next 2 days, which were the hardest on the trail. The next day was going to end up being about 6 hours of straight up and all stairs, and it takes us to the highest part of the Inca Trail, and I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know. But I got my head on straight and I went, okay, if not now, when? It's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves. Here we go. We had a delicious meal that night. The porters don't spend a ton of time with you because they're busy doing their things and taking care of things, but we spent a lot of time with our guide, and he ate all of our meals with us, and we got to know him a bit, which was really fun too. We got to ask him a bunch of questions. It was beautiful. The food was absolutely incredible. Every single meal starts with soup, and you get platters of food brought out to you, steaming hot, and then you also get dessert. Lots of options for drinks and tea. You can have hot chocolate, like just incredible. We went to bed pretty early and got ready for the next day. Every single morning they would wake you up with coca tea, which is really helpful at altitude. I mentioned in my Cusco video that processed coca is illegal to take out of Peru. Actually, any coca is illegal to take out of Peru because it is what cocaine is ultimately made from. But if you have it in this form where you just soak the leaves in tea or you chew the leaves, it actually just helps you with the altitude, and it can help you acclimatize better. Every single morning on the trail, they would wake us up at our tents with fresh, hot coca tea, which was really lovely. Every morning they also fed us a nice hot breakfast, which was beautiful, especially as we got higher into the Andes. It got cold. It got really cold, so it was really nice to have this beautiful, beautiful way to wake up in the morning. Because we didn't have to carry our tents or anything like that, we didn't have to tear down camp, which was quite nice. We basically just had to get up, put on our clothes, get our day pack ready for the day, eat some breakfast, go to the bathroom, and away we went. So morning time didn't take that long, and it was easy to get on the trail. I have no idea what time we woke up, but we were often waking up around 4:30, 5:30, something like that to get going. The second day of the Inca Trail, I have talked already way too much. This is gonna be way too long. I might need to break it up. I'm sorry, y'all. Second day of the Inca Trail is the hardest day. It takes you up to 14,000 feet. That is high. You feel that elevation, let me tell you. You feel it. Looking down the mountain, you basically start in a valley, but the valley's already at 9,000 feet. And you just hike up this mountain, and you can kind of see where you're going after you round one curve, and you just see it. It's so far away, but you can see this pass that you have to cross over. The day starts off in the rainforest, so it's quite hot. It's very hot, it's very sweaty. You're going up thousands of stairs, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It is thousands of stairs. It's just straight up and mostly stairs. Because there are no official ruins on this part, no official Incan ruins on this part of the trail, Mauro, our guide, sent the rest of the group ahead, and he had a little talk with me at the beginning of the day, and he said, take your own pace. You're a good hiker. Go at your own pace, keep yourself safe, and I'm gonna hike behind you. I'll come catch up and check in with you, but go at your own pace. It's okay. It's okay. And he sent the rest of the team ahead, knowing that we weren't actually going to have lunch on the trail that day. The rest of the team were going to arrive at our final camp around 2, and they would have lunch at that point and then just spend the rest of the day there. It took me 3 hours longer than them, but I still got in well before it was dark. I got in around 5 p.m. and Mauro was with me and kept me safe. So it was a good day. I had a much better mindset that day, and I just enjoyed it. And I sang songs to myself and I prayed a little bit. It was a really special day. And Mauro, true to his word, would catch up to me. He would check in with me. He'd make sure that I was okay. And then away I'd go. And there were a couple of places that you could kind of stop and rest, that they had washrooms. If you are concerned about the washrooms along the trail, fair. Some of them are, holes in the ground that you have to squat over. It wasn't anything that I hadn't encountered before, and it wasn't anything, that I was uncomfortable using, because I have been in the backcountry before, and at least it was a toilet. You know what I'm saying? For those of you who have backcountry camped before, you feel me, I'm sure. But it wasn't that bad. But I would say just make sure you're bringing along like hand sanitizer, things like that. Lots of sunscreen, because once you get out of the rainforest, you are just beaten down by the sun. And I did end up burning myself. I had a little burn. It's a pretty severe burn here. I somehow had a strip down my nose and right around my collar. I didn't put sunscreen like right where my shirt would move, and there was just this thick line of burnt skin around my collar. I also ended up burning my lips, which was extremely painful, and was painful for a week or two. Like it was bad. They were puffy. It was really awful. So make sure you have sunscreen on every single possible exposed area of your face and your skin, okay? I'm just telling you. You won't feel like you need it because the higher you get, the colder it gets. But also the higher you get, the more damaging the sun is to your body. So just trust me when I say layer on that sunscreen. Make sure you're wearing things with, like, you can get clothing that has like SPF 50. That's not exactly the right terminology, I don't believe, but you know what I'm saying. Like you can get clothing that helps protect your skin. So we ended up getting to the second kind of rest place. Mauro and I had these giant mandarin oranges. They were beautiful. We both chugged some Gatorade. And then I went on my way to do the last couple of hours to get to the top of Dead Woman's Pass. And he met me up there, and let me tell you, it was incredible. There was another team, a big group, that I kept kind of like leapfrogging. They would pass me and then I would pass them as they were resting, etc. And we all ended up at the top of Dead Woman's Pass together. They kind of adopted me throughout the day, which was really nice. There were a couple of groups that kept seeing me and they were like, "Are you okay?" Because I was mostly hiking by myself. Mauro would catch up to me and check in with me, but then I was kind of doing my own thing and he was behind me to make sure I was safe, but like he wasn't hiking with me. And so there were some teams that were like, "Are you okay?" It's actually illegal to hike the Inca Trail by yourself. You can't do it. You need to be with a guide. So it was just, yeah, it was funny. People were a little concerned about me. So this group kind of adopted me as we went. And I actually ended up in some of their official photos at the Sun Gate, which was very funny. But after you cross over Dead Woman's Pass, which we spent some time there because it was such an incredible moment. This is the moment that you, besides actually seeing Machu Picchu, hiking over Dead Woman's Pass is the moment that everyone thinks about when you're doing the Inca Trail, that and the Sun Gate. And it was just incredible. The clouds were moving so quickly past us and it was really, really incredible. Besides the chest cold, I did okay though. Like my body was doing better. I just couldn't breathe. But Maura and I took some photos there together and then off I went down the other side of the mountain, and it was just stairs going down, and it wasn't bad, but it was about 2 hours of stairs going down. I could actually see where we were staying that night, and I just kept going, okay, just get there, like, let's go, let's do this. And I sped up because going down is so much easier, especially after you've been at that altitude. And as we're going, I see some of our porters coming up the trail towards me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, were you guys worried? Like, I'm okay. And they're like, no. And they pulled out all of this hot food for us. They pulled out some coca tea and an Nalgene, like hot coca tea. And Mauro, who was with me at that point, was like, please don't cry, because he had seen me cry twice already at that point, and it was only day 2. He was like, please don't cry. I didn't cry, but I was very, very emotional about it, and I really, really appreciated them because they ran up that trail to give us food, and they didn't have to do that, you know, but they did. They, like I said, like, they took care of us. Mauro and I ate a little bit, and then I went off. And at this point, actually, Mauro had been carrying my bag. There's not a lot of weight in it, but he was carrying my bag just to help me out. And at that point, one of the porters grabbed my bag and carried it with me, and we rolled into camp, and I was in such a good mood. I had done a complete 360. We stayed the second night at a place called Pacaimayo. I'm not sure how to exactly pronounce it, but it's also where all of the other groups stay as well. And I rolled in singing, "Guess who's back? Look who's back." And everyone pops their heads out of their tents. They're like, "Dina!" So that was a nice feeling, and I'm just so thankful that no one said, "Took you long enough," because it did take me 3 hours longer than it should have. But that's okay, because it was a phenomenal day, and now I need to be completely honest, anytime I do something like this, and I know this is going to happen, I have to go immediately into my tent and my body goes into shock. That's normal for me, and it's kind of something that I'm just used to. Like, I push my body and I'm disabled. Like, it's just kind of part of what I have to go through. But I at least know what it is now. It doesn't freak me out anymore. I just kind of wait it out, make sure I drink a lot of electrolytes, you know, I have painkillers, etc. But I kind of wait it out, and then I put on some fresh clothes and went and joined everybody. We were watching a little bit of downloaded trashy TV that Patricia had downloaded in the tent, and we had a great meal again that night. And Mauro lied to us and told us that we were going to see tiny little colorful bears in the rainforest the next day, which we believed him for way longer than we should have. But it was a fun night. It was a good night. Hey pals, Dina from the future here. I decided to split up the videos because this is already like 30 minutes long. So I will have part 3 and 4 up for you within the next couple of days. But until then, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. And I am working on getting these better for you. Next time I travel, I will take more videos so that I'm not just showing you pictures, and I'll explain more. But I appreciate you sticking with me as I work to make my channel better for you. Thanks for being here. If you've made it this far, please comment, oh gosh, bloops, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Make it a great day. That's not right. And away we went. I just hit myself in the face. Wow. Oh, I just got a new subscriber. Thank you. Scratch that. What?